Imagine you and your spouse at a restaurant with a catch. You harvest your own vegetables and cook your own meal. I'm Phil Kruse, and welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle. Today, I will be interviewing Megan Amnott and Julianna Calloway with The Kitchen House, formerly known as the Edible Education Experience. The Kitchen House is an immersive, hands-on food education experience located right in College Park. And let me tell you, it's an amazing facility. Megan, Julianna, welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
And for the listeners out there, we're going to be discussing, Megan, Julianna, and myself are going to be discussing what a full garden to kitchen experience really is, how local schools, chefs, businesses, etc., how they partner with the Kitchen House locally here, and what are some of the programs available for you and your kids, plus a lot more. But before we dig in, I want to make sure you know how to find out more about the Kitchen House after you listen to this interview. Of course, their website's great. It's thekitchenhouse.org, not .com. And they're very active on social media, mainly Instagram and Facebook. And you can find them but it's at the Kitchen House, at the Kitchen House. So it's the @ symbol, then the Kitchen House. Okay. And of course, you can find me all over social media. I am a real estate agent, and one of my main lead sources are listeners like you. Look for me, Phil Kruse. That's Kruse with a K, Kruse. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And a portion of all my real estate commissions go to charity. I partner with the New Image Youth Center. I was just there yesterday for their end of school water balloon bash and managed to get myself soaked. So that was fun. And make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening, and turn on your notifications so you get dinged every time I drop a new episode, typically on Monday mornings. So let me paint a seed for you out there listening and watching. Imagine you're walking through a neighborhood street in College Park. Maybe you're walking your dog, and then you stumble upon the most beautiful vegetable garden you've ever seen. It's like you just discovered the Garden of Eden. And as you stare in awe at all the delicious, healthy-looking produce, you eventually see a sign on the building behind it that reads, The Kitchen House. And if you're like me, you think to yourself, does somebody live here? And then the next thought is, I wish I had that garden. That was my experience as I approached the Kitchen House. And so Julianna and Megan, I'm going to bring you in. That was such a great experience for me. And as I mentioned in my monologue at the beginning, that the listener might know you guys already as the Edible Education Experience. So why did your entity decide to change its name to the Kitchen House?
Well, there was a couple of reasons. Hi, Phil. Thanks for having us on today. And thank you for the great introduction. There was a couple reasons, but the main one, it was we wanted it to be a little easier to remember, and also incorporate using the word house. So as you mentioned, we are hyper local, and we're in a neighborhood. So as you're walking your dog, walking your kids to the bus stop, you're going to see this beautiful place. And so we just thought the Kitchen House really encompassed that neighborhood feel. And it really reinforces our accessibility to, welcome the environment around us. And it's a refresh focus. We wanted to do a little bit of a rebrand. We still have all the things that are at heart, but it's really teaching the knowledge, skills, and values aligned with eating more plants. And so as part of that, we just thought, why not the Kitchen House? It just made sense.
It does make sense. And if you haven't been to the Kitchen House, listening out there or watching, it looks like a really, really nice house, like a modern architecture, College Park style house that you would want to live in. And it absolutely fits perfectly in the community. It doesn't feel anything like a commercial installation. I honestly thought I was parking in the wrong spot, the wrong area there. So you guys nailed it. Honestly, you guys nailed it. You fit right in there. And so let's continue down that theme. I mean, the Kitchen House emphasizes a full garden to kitchen experience. So I want to know what that means, and how have you seen it change people's relationships with their food?
Yeah, so like Julianna mentioned, we focus on getting more plants on people's plates, right? So the Kitchen House, most of our programming is plant forward. We're not super dogmatic about veganism or vegetarianism. It's just adding more plants to your plate. And we are very lucky because we do have that beautiful garden, and you're able to pick produce, learn about different garden programs, and bring it into the kitchen as well, and focus on cooking those vegetables that are within season. So Florida is very special. We have a lot of different seasons. So being able to show people what they can grow, what they can do, spring, summer, fall, winter, and how to cook more vegetables so they have better understanding to put more of them on their plates.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned to me when we met at the facility, it was kind of a cool take that, our growing seasons are more diverse, as you just implied, but like our winter, quote unquote, relative to food crop production is really our summer. Whereas up north, the wintertime, you can't grow anything. Here in the summer, it's a little bit more challenging. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, if you ask your local farmer in Florida, well, most farmers, most other places, they'll winterize their crops, so they'll do cover crops and stuff like that for the winter. A lot of people do that in Florida during the summer because it's just so hot and only specialty crops grow here. But there are a lot of cover crops that can still be eaten that people don't realize. So really showcasing what you can do within Florida.
Do you have a story that comes to mind where you've kind of witnessed somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience harvesting their own vegetables, maybe they never have, and they've come to your facility and they've picked their tomatoes and their basil and all the peppers and so forth, and then they come in and cook their food? Is there a story that comes to mind that makes you think of someone that's like it's really changed their relationship with how they see their food and cooking?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we see it almost every day with all of our programming. And a really good example is we partner with the school that's actually across the street called OJA. They usually come for weekly programming, but those kids learning where collard greens, how collard greens got here, and then being able to cook it. It's something that they're very familiar with because they use it a lot in their families, but not understanding that this is how it grows. Or even kids are able, and adults don't realize that carrots are grown underground or onions are grown underground, and being able to pull one up and just bring it in. And yes, there's almost too many examples to pull one.
You always hear there's a pause and a gasp and like anytime a turnip comes out of the ground or a carrot, and it really is just like that wow moment. And like Megan said, then after that they cook it and they eat it and they enjoy it. And Megan's so great. She does a lot of the youth programs. She's so great at like getting so many plants on the plate for kids, and they have no idea just how many vegetables they're really eating.
I think our record has been 18 different vegetables on a plate at once.
Nice. Nice. So Megan, remind me, you're in charge of the culinary side of it over there? Is that correct?
So I'm the programs manager, and then I am also a trained chef. So I work on most curriculum development in the culinary side.
Nice. So they, you heard it there first, folks. They got a full-time trained chef on staff, and they bring in other folks as well. But we're going to get to that later. I want to go back to kind of the kid aspect of it. You mentioned the schools. I have a vegetable garden in my house, and to see my kids grow alongside of it and seeing the carrots come out of the ground, it is a magical experience. But with that said, and especially seeing what kids eat in school and stuff, it feels like most kids nowadays are eating processed food. I saw a statistic online that somewhere in the ballpark of 70% of all food that kids eat is processed food, which is insane. So how does the Kitchen House equip today's youth and Orlando's youth with the tools that they need to eat healthier now and in the future as adults?
Yeah, so we partner with a lot of different youth organizations, including Coalition for the Homeless, schools, field trips, stuff like that. But to me as a chef, and kind of where I feel we have gotten into more heavily processed food is just lack of knowledge, really. Yeah. It's not like you need to know how to cook this particular vegetable, but if you have your knife skills, you know how to braise something, roast something, anything like that, like our techniques, you can apply that to so many things. So you have more access to that knowledge in order to implement it in your daily life. And honestly, like with anyone, the younger you start, the more impact it's going to make growing up. So, I mean, we have 6th graders that I've seen all the way through 8th grade. And the amount of stuff that they're eating, the amount of stuff that they're cooking or even know about has been really impressive just in the 3 years. Now imagine if they could do that all the way to adulthood, that type of training. Sure. So I think a lot of the knowledge that's been lost, because it really is a generational knowledge, right? It's like I learned my basics from my grandmother and my mom, and I'm very lucky for that. But most people don't. So teaching that generational knowledge will take a couple generations to relearn, right? So
Right.
Yeah, it seems that way. And what you described makes me imagine, or makes me remember my experience. Like I'm a self-proclaimed health nut. I do all the cooking in my house, and broccoli is something I cook and eat probably on average 3 times a week. And my kids have identified that broccoli is their favorite food, and at least they did before they discovered waffles. But
you can put broccoli and waffles.
Right, that's the next food truck fad. When I discovered that you could actually roast broccoli, which now just seems so silly, common sense wise, like it was a huge game changer for me. And I could imagine like you unlocking these kind of hacks, if you will. And if you can roast broccoli, you can roast literally any vegetable,
Yeah.
And you guys had mentioned to me previously, educating the parents too on this, right? So now they can cook food that's not just bland steamed broccoli. They can jazz it up, and now the kids are eating their vegetables, right?
And then I think it's also important for parents to involve, and it's a hard thing to do, especially when you're coming home from work and trying to get your kids involved, but involving them in any part of the process really gives them ownership. So it makes them more willing to try new things, right? So I think that's also another important aspect of our training here with parents and kids, is really getting them involved together, because we do focus a lot on community as well.
Oh, I love that. And that's a perfect segue into my next question, because the Kitchen House collaborates with other local chefs, some pretty high level chefs, as a matter of fact, farmers, educators, including Orange County Public Schools. You mentioned the school across the street from your facility. Why are these collaborations and partnerships so important to your organization?
Well, like Megan just said, community is really important to us. And since, the beginning of this place, we've always tried to bring in the best of the best. We currently have some great chef ambassadors from some great local restaurants. We have Wendy Lopez from Reyes and now Sparrow that is opening up, Fabrizio Scarnardi from the Four Seasons, Julie and James Petrakis from the Ravenous Pig, Jamie McFadden from Cuisinarts, and then Lolakan from Kaya. And they have done great things. And what it means to be a chef ambassador. And of course, Kevin Fonzo, who's one of our founding members and who just has done amazing things for the organization. And they just really are involved. And whether that's volunteering for summer camps or coming to do a chef series, volunteering for our fall fete, which is coming up in the fall. We have 2 every year. We had Melissa Kelly from Primo here at the last dinner, so helping with the fundraiser. So all of these are like, James Beard nominees, Michelin star chefs, just really heavy hitters that care about where food comes from and building that community and educating the community on why putting plants on your plate is so important. So we're really lucky that they really take ownership of that role and love to help out.
I'm sorry, but like hearing you talk about it as passionately as you do, and the names you dropped, and for me, I identify more with the names of the restaurants. I don't have a relationship with these chefs, but maybe you can get them on my podcast for me. Okay. It's inspiring. It gave me goosebumps to know that what your facility is, where it is, what it looks like, the neighborhood it's in, and it's attracting these sorts of local badasses, frankly, that can teach our kids, teach us, is so cool and inspiring. And with that said, on the teaching side of it, and kind of how consumers like myself and others can consume what the Kitchen House does, what are some of the programs you have available now, both for kids, adults, and business entities alike?
Yeah, so we have a lot of programs, and also a lot more different program types coming up in the fall. But right now, we're really focusing on summer camps. So we still have spots available.
Yes.
Okay.
Summer camps, institutions-wise, we have team builders, which are 2.5-hour team building classes, chef nights and culinary curiosities, which is where you'll see a lot of our chefs or local chefs. And then we also have garden workshops with Mason from Winter Park Urban Farms. He's also our garden manager here, as well as Dr. Laura Barrett. She teaches some light garden workshops as well. Field trips for any type of school, private, public, whatever.
Homeschool.
Homeschool. We have a very, very diverse homeschool community, as well as grant funded programs. So we, like I said earlier, we work with Coalition for the Homeless, school across the street, really trying to bring it and make it accessible for everyone. Because I think, based on the consumer part, it is a consumer knowledge, right? To know where you are within your food system. So bringing in those chefs and farmers and stuff.
Yeah. So as far as programs go, like we have, like Megan said, summer camps, which most of them are sold out. But we do have some spots left as well, and those are more youth focused. But when we're talking about involving our kids, we have family nights coming up in the fall where it's parents and children cooking together with like an educational aspect to it. And then, like Megan mentioned, the chef nights and the culinary curiosities are when local chefs or local makers come in and either curate an amazing meal using produce from our garden. And that's just like you're coming in with your friends, your family, you bring a bottle of wine, you enjoy an amazing meal, and you know that your ticket price goes directly into funding these grant funded programs that we have to help the community. And the Culinary Curiosities is where local makers or chefs come in and teach people how to. We had a mocktails class. We had one of the bakers from Interlochen Country Club come and teach about whole foods baking. So just a lot of different things. And the way to find out about that is to go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, or follow us on social. And that way you can sign up for any of the classes. Like Megan said, in the summer, we are really focused on summer camps, but in the fall, we have a lot of big things coming and a lot of programs that people can sign up for.
Well, again, you've got me super excited. Just speaking purely from a selfish perspective, I love to cook. I love to eat. I love the bottle of wine you mentioned. And sure, we'll bring the kids eventually too.
Yeah.
So how that's great. I'm excited to check that out more, but let's shift gears a little bit and understand, how does the Kitchen House integrate nutrition education alongside of the culinary skills and all the other stuff we've been talking about, especially for like the health and well-being of kids and adults, you know?
Yeah. So on an educator standpoint, we have a diverse population of educators that help us build our curriculum. So chefs, obviously, but nutritionists, dietitianists. We even have a food historian on staff that helps us integrate it with cross-curricular style teaching. But
Megan, let me jump in. Food historian. Historian. Okay, I know that word. I was like, the story is a new one. I'm sorry. Continue.
But so we have a diverse population of educators that really lend their expertise to create a very special curriculum.
Sure.
But like I said, we do focus on plant forward, so putting more plants on your plate. So adjusting that scale and that ratio that typically we're used to, where it's the more Americanized diet is higher meat and carbs and lower in vegetables. So maybe just adjusting the way you eat, not completely changing it, but just adjusting it so it's more plant focused and with a side of meat versus meat focused with a side of plants, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I've certainly adapted my eating lifestyle to follow that. I've all but eliminated carbs. I mean, minus weekends, I guess. So with the health and well-being and the focus on the plant-centric, what sort of proteins could the listener expect to be dealing with if they come to one of your learning and cooking experiences?
So we do use eggs and dairy, but then we also incorporate a lot of ancient grains, beans, legumes, and if culturally appropriate, we will use like tofu or tempeh, anything like that. But we do, again, focus on that whole foods aspect. So a lot of beans, a lot of whole grains.
And that's a lot for our educational programming. As far as like chef nights go, or our fundraiser dinners, while we are plant forward, we do let the chefs get creative. And, sometimes we let them sneak in a couple things here and there.
Right.
For the
you just put some pork belly in there somewhere, right?
Because again, that's okay. We're not against it by any means. It's just like we said, changing the ratio a bit so that it is plant forward.
I love that, because I think one of the hardest things, like from my perspective, to do is to figure out a different way to cook a vegetable, right? Or how to take 1, 2, 3 vegetables that are in season and turn them into some sort of a savory combination. The protein can be pretty simple, right? You can grill something, you could, bake it, sure, you can get creative there, but to me, like, that's the easy part, is the protein, that what most people know, right? The American diet, like Megan said. So learning how to, I made a lentil concoction last night with the kale I harvested from your garden. You guys were so gracious. Yeah, you guys were so gracious to allow me to harvest some kale and an awesome like heirloom tomato. And that inspired me to look up, and I had some lentils. I'm like, oh, well, how about lentil and kale? And it was extraordinary with coconut milk. And I would have never done that. And my wife can be a picky eater. She's Brazilian, steak and picanha. And anyway, it was awesome. So I can tell the viewer, the listener out there that, even if you are like, I'm more of the American diet person, like, adding this to your repertoire in the kitchen is going to be such a great thing for your health, but also for your palate, because it tastes so dang good. I want to shift with really my last question here and come all the way kind of back around to where we started, and highlight again the fact that your facility is tucked right there in a residential neighborhood in College Park. It blends in with the architecture. How does this location, where you're located and how you guys have situated yourself in the neighborhood, how does that help emphasize your desire to be like a hyper local part of the community?
Well, I think there are a lot of different places in the country, in Central Florida, that have big facilities, big farms, big names. But us being here, we like to consider ourselves like the last mile. You're getting all this information, whether it's online, through stuff you're looking up, through the news, and we really just want to build a community here. So we want people to be able to visit Central Florida, be in College Park, any part of the main streets around us, really. There's Winter Park and Mills and the Milk District and all these nearby great local neighborhoods where it's not just about plants on your plate, but locally sourced. So these smaller farms, these farmers markets that have all these local CSAs, we really want to bring that in, and being hyper local. And we have like a community tasting tour. We have one this week. We have one coming up in the fall. And that's really inviting everyone, so everyone can have conversations and meet. And I think being in this neighborhood and, calling it the Kitchen House really brings all of that together, because it brings all the pieces that we all want to be a part of together to that main goal of being more healthy and to treat our bodies the way that they should be treated, and passing that knowledge down to our children.
Yeah. And I also think we do look like a house, and we are in a residential neighborhood. It makes it not as scary, because you could go to all of these big facilities and like, how am I going to implement that in my daily life? But we have the size of it. It's a pretty big yard for College Park, but you can start implementing growing stuff in your own garden, or even if you're in an apartment complex, on the windowsill. There's just small things that make it a little more accessible with our location that you can do in your daily life.
Yeah. And Julianna, you highlighted some of my favorite neighborhoods of Orlando. I mentioned earlier in the podcast, anyone who listens to me on a regular basis knows I'm a real estate agent. They know I love Orlando. I'm the biggest Orlando advocate that there is. And I have an expression that I like to use, which is called the real Orlando, right? Not Disney, right? And you guys are knee deep in it. You're right by downtown. You're right by all the other neighborhoods you mentioned that are so great. You're right by I-4. So you can get to your location, even if you are up in Sanford or all the way down in Kissimmee. It's so accessible. And once people get there, they're going to be like, man, maybe I want to move to College Park.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
Right. So guys, I just want to thank you for your time today. You've been great, both of you.
Thank you, Phil. This was great. And we hope everybody checks it out, and we'll see you at a program soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to bring my family there. I'm already thinking about doing some social events there with some other parents and friends of mine. And so to tie a bow around this, I want to reemphasize to the listener what I just said earlier, which is that I truly believe Orlando is the best city, and not just in Florida, but in the United States. And Julianna and Megan, people like you are the reason why. You guys have chose to work with an organization like the Kitchen House that kind of is doing so much with one thing that we all have in common, which is food, preparing food. And you're outreaching to kids, you're outreaching to underprivileged folks, you're outreaching to schools, to parents, to community members, to local chefs. It like ties the whole culture of Orlando together. And we're so lucky to have entities like you. And there's other, like you mentioned, larger entities and other entities that are somewhat similar all over Orlando. Like it's amazing. And so just know that out there, if you're listening to this podcast and you're one of those people that's from out of state and you're thinking about moving here, this is a great one of the many reasons why. I want to remind the listener or the viewer to go to thekitchenhouse.org and sign up for their newsletter. Like they said, they got their fall programming coming out, which is a huge time of year for the Kitchen House, and follow them on IG or Facebook at the Kitchen House, and go sign up your kids for summer camp if you haven't done that already. Of course, while you're online looking at their programs, check me out. Just Google Phil Kruse. That's Kruse with a K, Kruse. I'm a listing specialist, especially right now when it's a balanced market and buyers have more power than they have had in Orlando in the last decade. You really need a good creative listing agent. I can help you with that. And don't forget that a portion of all my real estate commissions go to charity. I work with the New Image Youth Center, but if you were passionate about the Kitchen House, we can certainly shift my portion of my commissions to them. And follow me on all my podcast platforms, YouTube and Spotify. Click the bell, follow me. It helps out a lot. And I'm going to say one last time before I do my little tagline outro, guys. Julianna, Megan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
today.
Phil.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And for the listener out there, always know that your best life in Orlando is within reach. Keep embracing every moment. Cheers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.